Here is how we set up the Airbrush to Aquatint at the University of Regina. You're going to start with your tub full of Aquatint bits. Take it out and set it on the table with a clean piece of paper towel. Then take out your paint and give it a little shake. Make sure the lid is on tight. Take out your airbrush cleaner as well as your small tub with parts, a little bowl, and the miniature Allen key. And finally your airbrush, which is hanging onto the holster on the side. So fill up that bowl with a bit of water and then take all the parts that are in the airbrush cleaner, which is just Windex, and place them into the bowl of water. That rinses the Windex off of the parts, which you will then dry with another piece of paper towel and prepare to assemble the airbrush. And of course, these are small parts and they could easily go down the drain, which is why we use the little bowl instead of doing this in the sink. So you can see I'm laying down the tip and the air cap and the needle, and now I'm going to move my bowl out of the way and dry everything off. It doesn't have to be perfectly dry, it just needs to be mostly dry. So what you see me doing here is kind of blowing into some of these parts because I want to make sure that there's no paint or any liquid in the way, and I'm having a look at all of my different pieces. There's our airbrush. Looks like it's been well used, but it is in perfect condition. So the best way to assemble this is to turn the airbrush upside down so it takes the pressure off of the hose, but it also allows you to put the parts together so they don't end up on the floor. The first thing I'm going to put on is the air cap, and I'm going to twist it around, and I'm not going to twist it until I can't twist it anymore. That can actually damage the airbrush, but I'm going to twist it until there's a bit of resistance, and then I'm going to place the tip into the air cap, and then here's the part that throws everyone off, but the needle. The needle comes in from behind, and you should get a good look at it here. The needle has some threads on it. I'm pointing to those threads right here, and there are some threads inside of the tip as well, and when you spin the tip onto the needle, it kind of locks it into one. So pushing that one piece all the way in, I can then take my small Allen key and I can attempt to tighten this nut. That will keep that little assembly, the tip and the needle, from moving. And the same thing applies here. You tighten that little screw until it gives you some resistance, but not so much that you're going to strip the screw and damage the airbrush. So the final adjustment we need to make has to do with the pointy part of the needle. The pointy part of the needle will stick out the end of the tip when the tip is kind of screwed all the way down. So you start by first screwing the tip all the way down so you can see the needle, and then you unscrew the tip. So you're going counterclockwise, or essentially raising that tip up until the needle goes just below the surface and just disappears. If you can see the needle, paint will not come through. So our airbrush is ready, and now I can take the lid off of my paint and I can screw on the cap that has the straw in it. Make sure that that straw is attached. If the straw is not attached, no paint will be pulled out as well. So attaching the paint onto the airbrush itself is simple. You just squeeze it into this hole. It's a friction fit. There's no screw, there's no little twisting or nut or anything. It just holds in like so. And when you push down on the plunger, paint will come out the end. So reach down and grab a piece of clean bond paper. This is just computer paper, and this is really the key to ensuring you're going to put enough paint, or the right amount of paint, on. Lay your plate in front and push down on the plunger. If paint comes out, don't let go of the plunger. Don't worry about wasting the paint. Just keep spraying. Every time you stop and start your airbrush, it dries a little and less paint comes out, and it can be finicky. But if it's all going smoothly and you don't press it on and off, the whole process should take 30 seconds or less. You'll note that my airbrush is almost 1.5 feet away from the plate. It's kind of almost in line with the red tape on the edge of the table there, and I'm wafting back and forth. I'm not looking at the plate, I'm actually just looking at the white paper around the plate. And the reason why is because looking at the plate, you'll never be able to tell that you have 50% coverage, but the piece of paper will show that you do. So here's a close-up of the plate, and yeah, you can see paint, but you can't tell how much is there. But when you look at the white paper, and I'm about to freeze frame it, you can see that I've got about 50% coverage. Now, before I disassemble the airbrush, I need to run some cleaner through the airbrush. So I swap my paint for the airbrush cleaner, which again is just Windex. And now I'm going to just spray. And I can spray, I can turn it off and on and off and on. You can see I'm a little at the top of the frame here, but essentially I'm going to do this for longer than it took me to do the actual aquatinting part. And I can stop, I can count to 2 or 3 and then spray again. And essentially I want clear or nearly clear fluid to come out of the airbrush. Once I feel like it's clean enough or clear enough, then I can disassemble. Well, we kind of zipped through the initial assembly of the airbrush. It's important to see how cleaning the airbrush, how long it actually takes, and what you have to do to ensure that it's going to work well for the next person. It's important to note too that if someone else is waiting for the airbrush, you still have to do the cleaning procedure between plates. If you hand the airbrush over to someone and they start doing their plate, it's entirely likely that they're going to get a clog and be stuck halfway through aquatinting. Disassembly is essentially the reverse operation. Start with your Allen key and loosen the nut. Try not to take that nut all the way out and lose it, but loosen it enough so that that assembly can slide. And then you're going to unscrew the tip from the needle, take those 2 parts, place them into some water, and take off the air cap. Putting them into the water first just helps to loosen any paint that's there, and then they can go back into their cleaner. The straw here is going to be filled with paint, so bring that over to the sink and then carefully run it underwater until clear water comes out. Then you can take that assembly and place it into the little container with the cleaner and put the lid on and put the rest of your bits away. And there is your aquatinted plate, ready to be stopped out and step etched according to your heart's desire.